Welcome, Power fans. I am back to cover Power Book 4 for Season 2. Missed the first episode, but I'm back here to cover episode 2 going forward. We're going to be here covering the entire season, and the new episodes will be dropping, or the reviews will be dropping roughly a little bit after midnight. So I'll give you a little bit of time to watch the episode and then come back and check out our review. So without further ado, we're here at episode number 2, entitled Great Consequences. So we're going to start at the end because the end kind of showed you the biggest consequence of this episode. We saw a young girl gunned down by a stray bullet that was intended for Tommy from Jenard's crew. Uh, Jenard, Jay had put the word out, leave Tommy alone. We got bigger problems with the Serbs. But of course, his crew doesn't respect him at this point. They're trigger happy. They wanted some get back. They didn't like Tommy as an outsider coming in. So we had one rogue gang member try and kill Tommy, missed him, and killed this young little girl out there trying to help her mom with groceries. So why is this going to be so important? On the surface, the main thing is, of course, we know when an innocent child gets killed, there's going to be a crackdown. That's what Stacey said about getting the CPD on her side and getting the Attorney General to get a task force. So that's going to put more pressure on the streets. But I wanted to focus more on what is this going to do to Tommy? Because Tommy has had a game plan, which he said in episode 1, I'm on the warpath. I want to avenge Liliana and what happened to her. And I'm going to manipulate every single crew to get what I want, to find out, number one, who killed her, and then destroy that person and whoever they're attached to. So everyone is basically a pawn to him at this point. And he also said during the episode when he was talking with Diamond, when Diamond was trying to tell him, look, we can't have any bodies out here. I'm just trying to do business. Tommy's like, look, we do the best business when we're on top. Once we get on top and we're not under anybody anymore, then we can do the real business that we need to do. But in order to get there, we're going to have to, put some work in. And he tried to clean it up by stating that, let me handle it. And I've never put my gun on anyone that didn't deserve it. But this is kind of the first time I think in Power that we've seen an innocent person, a child, get killed like that. So how is that going to affect Tommy's psyche? Is he going to have any remorse? We know famously Tommy has not had any remorse in this series or the original Power series. But this was a bullet that was intended for him. If he was not there, that child does not get killed. So how is that going to affect him? Is that going to make him slow down? Is that going to make him rethink his plan? Or is he going to use that to gun more for Jay's crew? Is he going to use that as justification to say, look, I need to be even more gung ho to kind of clean these streets up? So I want to see what they do with that, because there's a lot of different ways they can go. I don't expect them to go too deep because we are talking about Power. So, they're not going to turn into The Wire and talk about the whole fallout that would happen from in the neighborhood from a child getting killed like that. But I am interested to see if Tommy's going to go visit the mother and the family or try and send some money their way. I want to see how that affects them, because we did see the one other case, now that my memory is being jogged. The lawyer from the original Power universe that he killed. He had that interaction with the daughter trying to get her on the right path. So are we going to see something similar with him trying to interact with, the mom and the surviving brother, trying to get them set up and maybe get out of Chicago? We'll see. We'll see how Tommy gets affected by that. The next biggest thing that happened in this episode was Vic. Vic is on the bender, basically. He's tore up about Gloria being killed, doesn't trust his sister, Claudia, because he knows Claudia is just in it for power, just like her father, which is what he told Claudia, I can't work with you. You're just like my dad. He blames his dad, Walter, for what happened to Gloria. And he's just a pathetic figure at this point. He does a corner store robbery, gets a blowjob. He probably has a disease now, just all over the place, gets tased out in the street, So one thing that he decided at the end of the episode at Gloria's gravestone, kind of funny. We saw that with Tariq at his father's gravestone. But he made a vow that I am going to destroy my father's empire from the inside. I'm going to be a mole and just basically deconstruct everything that he's worked for. Sounds great in theory. I understand where he's coming from, But if I had to make a prediction, I think he signed his death warrant by doing it. And I think the person that's going to end up killing him is possibly his sister Claudia, because Claudia wants that power. She wants that respect from her father. And her father told her point blank, you were born in the wrong gender. You're a woman. There's only so much responsibility that I'm going to give you. This whole empire is going to be inherited by your older brother, as it's supposed to be. But if she can uncover, or she will uncover, what her brother is up to, she can tell her father that, and that might be the one thing that finally turns her father against the son, knowing that he's trying to destroy everything that we worked generations for. That's one betrayal that I can't forgive. And that could be the one thing that will finally let Walter trust his daughter, Claudia, and give her the reins. So keep an eye on that, because Claudia is completely treacherous. We saw with her sleeping with Brendan, just to get information from him about what's going on in Dublin. She will do anything to get ahead. She reminds me, if you ever watch Game of Thrones, of Cersei. Same interaction almost with her father, Walter. Is the same interaction we saw with Cersei and Tywin, if you watched that show. But if you didn't, just to sum it up, Cersei wanted power. She wanted to get in the top position, and her father famously told her, "You're not as smart as you think you are." So we're going to see if Claudia is as cunning as she's shown to be in these first two episodes. She'll probably have to keep manipulating Brendan, which I think shouldn't be a problem. She really put it on him in the bedroom, so I think she can always get information from him as needed. I think he's completely compromised at this point. And that's another thing that can win her favor with her father, Walter, if she can get him some inside information that can help get him up from under the thumb of Dublin and the money pit that he's kind of under with them right now. So something to keep in mind. I think Claudia is on the path to actually gaining power this season. So I'm really interested to see what she's going to do. As far as Jenard, the one smart influence in his life to a degree is Shanti, our Clarissa Shields boxer chick. The one mistake I think she's making is actually investing in him, where she told him that, "I'm tying myself to you, you have to win." But she's great as far as telling him that you're not respected at this point. Your soldiers aren't riding with you. You got to do something to get that under control. So she gave him money to help him out with Miguel, but he's still crushed in that middle management position where he's getting it from all sides. You're not big enough to, you know, push away Miguel and the Serbs, so you're under their rule of thumb and have to pull money, rob Peter to pay Paul, to pay both of them. And then your underlings, which are supposed to be under you, as you called them, insubordinate. They're insubordinate because they can see that you don't really have power to protect them. So when that happens, they start getting cavalier and doing what they want. So he's all over the place at this point. He's the one that's in the most peril. And Diamond was completely correct in what he told him. He's told him point blank, look, I chose the money. I chose stability over uniting with you because you don't know what you're doing. You are all over the place. I can't trust you, even though you're my brother. So we're going to see how long this dynamic lasts. I know they're at odds to a degree, but once his brother Jay gets into trouble that can cost him his life, I can't see his brother sitting on the sidelines and letting that happen. So at some point, Diamond's going to come to the rescue, probably bring Tommy grudgingly along to prevent something bad from happening to Jay, whether it's from the Serbs or whether it's from Miguel. Let's talk a little bit about Miguel. I like the little swerve that they did with him when he first came on the scene. That first confrontation he had with Jay. I thought he was the leader of the cartel, or speaking for the cartel. But we find out that later on in the episode, after the attempted Serbian hit, he's basically in the same position that Jay is in, stuck in that middle management role. Che is above him, speaks for the Estrada cartel, and he's basically telling Miguel, if you don't get it together and handle things like I tell you to do, and fall back with the Serbs as far as trying to go to war with them, I'm going to kill your sister. So we saw the abject fear on his face. So he doesn't have as much power as we think he does. So I'm interested to see what happens with his mother. She's really going upside his head and telling him what needs to be done and to be smart and everything. So she's in the godmother type role to a degree. So I hope Che and all of them don't do anything with her, but we'll see. As far as his sister goes, Tommy is slowly and slowly working on her, breaking down her defenses. So eventually, we know her and Tommy are going to hook up at some point. But as we know, anyone that gets near Tommy doesn't last long. So as soon as that happens, I think she might not make it through the end of the season because Tommy is not changing. We know who Tommy is at this point. He has no exit plan. He's not trying to get out the game. So anyone near him that's not on the same page as him, is basically signing their death warrant at some point. So we'll see how that goes. Um, I'm trying to see how this season is going to possibly interact with book two. We've seen crossover before. This Estrada cartel, they already mentioned that, or Miguel mentioned that, he knew about Tommy's connections back home, was able to get Tommy's name. So eventually, is that going to lead to possibly Noma? Because we're talking about cartel business here. So we're talking about high level players, high level weight being pushed. Noma's at the top in New York. Is there possibly a way we could see her showing up as far as them exchanging information, or maybe them knowing about the Tejadas? Because knowing about Julio says a lot. That means they know a lot. And if they don't at this point, they have to know that Tommy has taken out cartels before. So he can be a useful weapon to possibly Miguel. Because remember, Miguel said to his mother, I'm going to keep Tommy around because a wild card like him can, you know, uh, be in my favor. So here's something I want you to keep in mind. With Miguel saying that, if Che keeps putting the pressure on him, can he possibly, talking about Miguel, could he convince Tommy to take out Che to kind of disrupt that cartel or get Miguel in the head of the cartel, the Estrada cartel, get him in a bigger position? Something to keep in mind because we know Tommy, when he was with Ghost, they had no issues, taking out cartel leaders before. We've seen it in prison, out in the woods when cartel leaders escape. So Tommy knows how to handle cartel leaders. So that's something I'm interested in seeing as the season progresses. Um, Outside of that, I think Tommy's going to continue line stepping. Really pay attention to the relationship with him and Diamond as the season goes forward. They kind of made it obvious this episode, comparing their relationship with what happened with Ghost and Tommy. The Ghost trying to always tell Tommy to calm down, think smart. Even the way Diamond was talking in that initial scene where Tommy brought it up that you sound like my old partner, his inflections that time Diamond was using, he sounded a lot like Ghost. I think that was deliberate to kind of show them that Diamond is the restrained one, the one that's looking for an exit plan, the one that has something outside of the game. He has a barbershop business. He's kind of in the real world, so he can kind of separate the street life from the legitimate life. Tommy, there is no line with that. He's always been in the streets. He has no desire to be out of the streets. So my concern for Diamond is that I don't think Tommy really respects him, not in a malicious way. It's just the fact that Tommy's done so much. Like I mentioned, he's taken out cartel leaders with Ghost. He's been the supplier. He's went to war with, someone on a high level like Ghost. So he has no fear. Somebody like Diamond is kind of just a street guy to him, someone that's never really seen the mountaintop. So he feels like there's nothing Diamond can really teach him. So anytime Diamond is trying to tell him something or express concerns, Tommy is what? He's always brushing them off like, don't worry about it. I'll handle it. So eventually that's going to have to come to a head, because if there's always going to be this power imbalance or respect imbalance between Tommy and Diamond, there's going to be a split at some point, probably later on in the season towards the finale. But we shall see. I think we're off to a good start. A lot of different irons in the fire. As far as like the biggest one is really what's going to happen with the siblings, Vic and Claudia. I think that's the biggest thing that has my attention. I'm thinking Claudia might come out on top with that. only because she's completely ruthless. And I can see her taking out her brother to get that top spot with Walter once he is willing to step down. So let me know what you guys think. This is episode 2 that we covered. Great Consequence. We'll be back the following week to cover episode 3 and all the remaining episodes in Power Book 4 Force. And also, if you haven't checked out my reviews that I did on Power Book 2, go back on my page, check those out. I did a great interview with Noma, talking about her uh, journey, what she's expecting from Noma in season 4. Let me say the actress's real name, Carolyn Chikezi. So check her out. The interview I did with her discussing Noma and what can happen in book 2, season 4. And hopefully, unfortunately, with the writer's strike, we can't really do any interviews right now, but that can end at any given point. And if that does, before the season ends, I will make sure to try and get some interviews for you for book 4. All right. Take care and looking forward to hearing your guys' thoughts.